This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And it's a cold morning again. I wish this would stop already. It's the 10th of March, and it's about 8:25 in the morning here in the Holy Land. That's not so holy. 46 low. We're at 56 now. And we're going to hit 70, which will be nice. It will marginally start warming the house up. Tomorrow, 73, the house will warm a little. Then 72, warm again. 71, it'll warm again. And then sadly, they're predicting rain on Saturday, which is going to cool the house off again, sadly, and Sunday. So, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray we don't get rain in this area on Saturday and Sunday like they're forecasting, because it's going to keep the houses cold, and it's horrible they're so cold now. And I ask this of you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that if you like. So the temperatures aren't going to be that bad, 71 on Friday, and then we got 69 on Saturday with rain, and then 66 on Sunday with more rain. And then we get Monday 66, then we go back with sunshine, and then it's talking on Thursday next week of rain again. This is horrible. It's just terrible. It's not warming up. The rain just keeps everything cold. So if you feel you'd like to help out here, please agree with the prayer so we don't get we keep getting this constant rain. It's just miserable weather. You don't get April showers bring May flowers in Israel. You get March showers. So I don't know what happened. Maybe we just rolled into the rains in March. I don't know. It's just horrible. The weather in Israel stinks. You have to understand that. It's either cold much of the year, like 7 months of the year, maybe 8. The weather's terrible. It's either too hot, way too hot, or too cold and bitter. The temperatures don't go down that much here. Okay, it's just bitter cold because it's wet and damp. And the houses are made all of concrete. I've never seen wall-to-wall carpeting ever in all the years I've been in Israel. Never once did I ever see it. And they don't insulate the houses here, which is retarded in my book, but that's it. I mean, there's occasionally you come across an insulated house. I say it's maybe 3% or 2% of the houses in Israel are insulated. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true. I don't know why they don't do it, because an insulated house is cooler in the summer. These houses are cooler in the summer by about 10 or 15 degrees compared to the outside. So, that's an advantage, but the winters are just miserable. And this winter doesn't want to quit. It won't quit. I don't understand. It just doesn't stop. It just keeps going. Now you're sitting there saying, well, it hits 70. I agree. That's pretty high. But in the winter, it usually hits 60, So when we get to 73 already, then the house starts to warm up. Once the house warms up, it's nice. But then if you get 2 days in a row, guess what? The house cools off again. And it doesn't cool off just in those 2 days because the houses are concrete and the water gets in the concrete. That's your problem. If you're talking about an aluminum house or, other kinds of houses that are just going to shed the water, then once the rain's over, it's over. But not with this. All right, enough belly aching. I'm sorry. So, sleeper agents, America detected a notification by Iran that was apparently sent around the world to activate the sleeper agents. This is not a good thing. This is a very bad thing. And Turkey had another, not the first time, another missile go into Turkey airspace that was taken down by an American destroyer in the area. And Turkey is getting very uppity at Iran for this. And this could bring NATO into it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Turkey could go Article 5, and that's it. Iran firing missiles into Turkey, that's Article 5. What did Turkey do to Iran? Nothing. You see what I'm saying? Okay, that could be an Article 5. That changes the whole scope of everything. And when I'm talking about the whole scope of everything, it could change what China and Russia and North Korea do. Yeah, oh yeah, it could change that. It could change that. What, I don't know what'll happen. I mean, we're in the latter days, and when you get into these wars, you don't know what's going to happen. So why is Iran doing this? We'll talk about all of that. They basically see it as a possible exit out of the war. I'll explain it to you. Then we got the Cyprus situation, attacks on the British air base in Cyprus. I'm going to show you how many countries have brought warships over there and aircraft to protect Cyprus. And that brings the EU into it. Cyprus is not in NATO, but it's in the EU, I believe, and it brings the EU into this. So you could see NATO and the EU get into this, and that fulfills prophecy. It looks good for fulfilling the Elam prophecy in Jeremiah 49, starting in verse, 34. So yeah, it looks good for that. What did America do in World War II when it couldn't get Germany to stop? It had annihilated the Germany submarines, the U-boats that were attacking shipping and everything like that. I think something like 90% of those guys got killed. They got annihilated. German Navy went down. The German Air Force was in very weak condition, and the Army was in weak condition. And America, to get Germany to stop, was bombing Dresden, Hamburg, Berlin, day and night. Day and night. They bombed the civilians to get it to stop. And they did it in Japan too. Yeah. And that may be the outcome of Iran. Likely. They keep saying they're not going to stop. Okay, it looks like the son of the Khomeini, there's something wrong. He could be dead. And I'll get into that with you. All right, let me jump into the live stream and see what's happening. What Iran should do when they appoint new leaders is they should probably appoint, a half a dozen at the same time. Call them new leader number 1, number 2, number 3, so they could, replace them as they get killed. Do I like? You're asking me something I don't know what it means. Um, Trump will turn tail and go home. It's a possibility, but not too likely at this stage. At this stage, not that likely. It could be, but not seeing a lot of signs of that right now. Thank you for the moderators. I appreciate you a lot. All right, let me turn this volume down. And let me put a post up here very quickly, and that is probably going to be seconds, not minutes. Uh, okay. All right. So I'm going to do some praise now, and we can watch people leave the live stream. Watch the numbers go down. Okay, you can join in if you want. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So, um, where do we start? Well, we'll get some ground to cover. All right. Whoops. So what happened is American Intel picked up a communication broadcast to Iranian sleeper agents around the world telling them to get active. Okay. Now, they haven't assigned actual missions to them that they have fulfilled, but I guess they were telling them to get ready to go receive orders, something like that. Okay. And it troubled Trump, and they notified anti terrorist forces in many countries, I assume. So they're taking it pretty seriously. Um, all right. We got a request for a toss in Calgary, Canada. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I bind you unclean spirits from being inside any building owned, operated, or controlled by the Calgary government or the Canadian government inside Calgary. You have to not be in any of these buildings for the next 10 years continuously. And if some person's in these buildings, you have to immediately depart from that person and never return unto them again. So if anybody enters into any of these buildings, you have to depart from these people immediately. They can't be in the building with you inside them. And these commands are set for the next 10 years continuously. And you shall not appear to anybody inside of these buildings, nor communicate with them through people or directly yourself or using any means at your disposal for the next 10 years continuously. And this binding is set in place now for the next 10 years continuously. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you can agree with this binding if you like. If I knew how to write songs, I'd write a song for the American and Israeli Air Force that would start like this. You take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll bomb Tehran before ye. But that's as far as I could get. In the Jamkaran Mosque in the city of Qom, Qom, where they're flying the red flag of vengeance in Iran. It was raised, RAISED, following the assassination of the Khomeini and the announcement of the son as a new supreme leader was received with chants that's read like that were these: death to Israel, death to Israel. Very nice. See, it's just the death cult. All they run around doing is killing people, their own people, other people, Satan's chosen people, right? By their actions. Am I wrong? Trump responded to the surge in oil prices. Short-term prices are going to drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iranian nuclear threat is over, and a very small price. There's a lot of damage to the refineries and ports, and Trump's wrong. There's tremendous damage to many of the refineries and the ports. They can't ship the oil without the ports and the refineries. Now, sometimes they can repair the refineries in a week, and sometimes it could take 3 months. So this high gas and oil prices thing is not so easy to make go away. Okay. So what Turkey did is, because they got fired on by Iran, not Lebanon, Iran, they took 6 F-16 fighters and put them in what's called Northern Cyprus, which is Turkish Cyprus, which is where the seat of Satan is. There is historical hostility between Cyprus and Turkish Cyprus. Now, some of you may not know that Satan's seat is in Cyprus. And I will prove it to you now. Revelation 13, verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea. So Apostle John, not Paul, Apostle John is standing like by the beach, the sand of the sea, right? Okay, he's on the beach. He's not a quarter mile inland. He's at the beach. And saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his head, his horns, 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. Now, this is an allegory to describe the beast. He's not literally going to look this way, okay? And then that might have been what was in the vision that Apostle John saw. It appears it was for sure. Okay, and the beast which I saw was, that's not Satan, it's the beast, was like unto a leopard, and his feet were the feet of, like the feet of a bear. This is describing his attributes, okay? It's not, I mean, in the vision, he may have looked that way, okay? Like unto a leopard. A leopard is an extremely fast attacker. It attacks so fast it's a blur. And it goes for the throat, usually. And his feet were as the feet of a bear. So a bear will hit you with a claw. I mean, a bear is so strong, he can hit a horse with his paw and break the horse's neck. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Well, that's how a lion devours its prey. And the dragon, now that's Satan. So Satan gave him, the beast, his power. Satan gives the beast his power. Okay? And his seat. Satan gives the beast his seat. Remember that. And great authority. Okay? Now, all we need to know is where Satan's seat is, and we got this one knocked. And sadly, the churches don't teach you this, but if you go into Revelation, 2, I believe, maybe verse 12, it explains to you where Satan's seat is. Okay? I read Revelation 2, verse 12. And to the angel of the church in Pergamos. Now, Pergamos is in what we call Cyprus today. Now, some of the more modern, crappier translations say Pergamum. Okay? There is no Pergamos or Pergamum in Israel. Never was, never will be. We're talking Cyprus. We're actually talking northern Cyprus, which is Turkey owns it. Turkey, formerly of the Ottoman Empire, and Erdogan, who Israelis refer to mockingly as the Sultan of Turkey. He's a corrupt piece of crap dictator, transactional at that. And he's just another piece of garbage. Write these things, saith he which hath the sharp sword with 2 edges. That's Yeshua. Because when you see him in Revelation 19, he has a double-edged sword coming out of his mouth. That's, of course, I think, allegorical. I know thy works and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. There it is. Satan's seat is in Pergamos, which is in North Cyprus, actually by the beach, by the sand, where John was standing. Okay? And thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied, and hast not denied my faith, even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr. So this is, of course, happened a long time ago. Who was slain among you where Satan dwelleth. So they got to prove that Satan's seat is no longer in Pergamos and he doesn't dwell there. And I'm going to tell you right now, they can't. Okay. They'll tell you that some people built an image of Satan's seat in some museum and they put it in Germany or someplace like that. Anybody that believes that is dumb enough to go to the lake of fire. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. That's one of the dumbest things I ever heard of. His seat is not a literal seat. That's where he reigns from. It's not a literal thing you build out of an erector set or something. Okay, so that's where Satan's seat is, and that's coming into attention now, Cyprus. Very interesting. So the Iranians are saying, we will defend the borders of the homeland under the command of the new supreme leader and will not retreat until the Zionist entity is erased from the map. Well, they don't understand prophecy. All their ships in Iran are at the bottom of the sea. If you don't know, I mean, a submarine at the bottom of the sea can work, but no, they've destroyed their ships. Yeah. They're defunct, they're dead, the ships. Okay. There was a major impact at Mehrabad Airport, Tehran, in Iran. Tehran's the capital of Iran. With at least 16 aircraft targeted. These would be civilian planes and destroyed. These are, they are military transport aircraft, the backbone of how the regime moves weapons and troops and equipment across the region. So they were dumb enough to leave their 16 cargo aircraft laying around, and they got destroyed. The Iranians are really stupid people, but you see, they're not so much stupid as their psychiatric cases. That's really what they are. The second Iranian corvette of the Shahid Soleimani series is on fire due to an attack near Bandar Abbas port, again, Iran. So it's like on fire, which is a very bad thing. Ships are on fire and they don't always necessarily sink. They can float around while they're burning easy enough. It's not that difficult for that to happen, but they don't, they get to the point where they're defunct and there's no value. And that's what I believe happened here. We're getting reports that there's some ships actually transporting the Persian Gulf now, and they're turning off their transponders during the transit and turning them back on after they pass through. Some are getting escorted by different countries, warships, and it's a pretty dismal situation. And the vast majority of the traffic is not going through there anymore. The Emir of Kuwait, now that's the same as a sultan or a king or a dictator. Okay. A king is a dictator. Our country was subjected to, well, not a righteous king like Yeshua or maybe King David, but the lousy, jerks, the enemies of God, they're dictators calling themselves kings. That's all. Our country was subjected to a heinous attack by a neighboring Muslim state that we considered friendly. It caused innocent casualties, despite the fact that we did not allow the use of our land, our airspace, or territory, or territorial waters for any military activity against it. And we conveyed this repeatedly through diplomatic channels. The security of our homeland is a red line. So he's telling the Emir of Kuwait is telling him that he's, with the red line comment, he's saying we're going to attack you. Well, by himself, he's he's got enough. I mean, he's like Barney Fife military. I mean, he can't really do much. The only military he really has there, I think, is set up to stop an overthrow of his dictatorship. That's all. But he might have a dozen or something aircraft that he could fly and throw bombs down on Iran. If there's nothing Iran could do about it, he'll do it. He's a piece of garbage. He really is. They're all pieces of garbage. They're all Satan bots. Satan's the head of every country on the earth, including America and Israel right now. Yeah. The leaders of all these countries are Satan bots. And it's going to be that way till the end of the age, which approaches very shortly. China, Canada, America, Mexico, all the Europe countries, all the Africa countries, all Central, South America, Asia, everyone. If they weren't, they would be overthrown. It's easy to understand. Scripture in the English says God of this world. No. It says God of this ion, God of this age. He's a phony God, but people follow him. Erdogan warns Iran. Despite our repeated warnings, provocative steps are continued to be taken against Turkey. No action should be taken that casts a shadow over our 1,000-year-old neighborly and brotherly bond. There's some sort of siren in the distance or something. I don't know. Neighborly and brotherly bond with Iran. Well, Iran is actually still moving a lot of oil through the Straits of Hormuz, and America's not doing as much about it as we would probably expect they are. But every day, every night, they're destroying pieces of Iran, rest assured. Iran's a big place, and there's a lot of stuff to be destroyed. Oh, it's just somebody telling me that we got a broadcast problem. Let's see. No, it's not. That's good news. We're still getting red alerts. We had some here last night. The dog slept through it. They're finally getting used to it, I think. It was a long red alert, several minutes. Then it stopped. And then nothing for like 2 minutes. And then I heard explosions in the distance. So they knew the missile was coming in the general area, and they knew they had to take it down, and they just warned everybody in the general area to go, get off the street, go into your shelter, whatever. So when they fire iron domes at the incoming missile, the shrapnel doesn't hit the people. But it didn't get taken down in my immediate area. It got taken down further away. It'll be nice not to get woken up at night by sirens again. Trump said it's too soon to talk about seizing Iran's oil, but doesn't rule it out in a phone call with NBC News on Monday. Trump weighed in on Iran's new leader, the Texas Senate race, and his push to get the Save America Act through Congress. The problem with his Save America Act through Congress is Jehovah's destruction of the daughter of Babylon, which is a prophecy that has to come true in Jeremiah 50 and 51. So Trump's got a problem. He's got plans that contradict God's plans for America. The message about the sleeper agents around the world belonging to Iran was sent encrypted. Based on satellite images from Iran of the Iranian underground missile bases, they've been released showing continuous airstrikes carried out with bunker penetrating bombs. As a result, while during the first 2 days of the war, the Iranian regime was launching hundreds of ballistic missiles, that number has now dropped to only several dozen per day, sometimes not exceeding 15 or 18 launches. So, I believe this to be correct. They're still running missile launches. The mobile missile launches are treacherous because they're like a big truck, like a Kenilworth or a Mack truck pulling a trailer, a low boy that has the missile launcher on it, and it keeps moving around. In the Cold War, I think it was Russia, maybe some other countries, that said they put a nuclear ballistic missile or more than one on a train, and they built train track for this train, and they kept the train moving all the time. So they couldn't blow the train up. What's wrong with that picture? All you got to do is blow the tracks up. That's it. Okay, now this is getting weird. Iranian television, this is their TV, I guess they got it functioning again, confirms that Mojtabi Khomeini, is that like a mojito? Was seriously injured. What it is thought is that the kid was killed in the same attack with the father. And all we ever saw about this voting him in, which I don't think ever really finalized, was I don't think they ever swore him in or anything. I mean, they apparently voted him in, but I don't think it was officially ever finalized. They did that to conceal that he was killed along with his father in the bunker. So since they can't produce him now, they're coming up with cracks like he's severely injured, so they can't present him. They don't have to. But the thought is he was killed. So if he was killed, America can't kill him over. You can only kill somebody once, Hezbollah says they're going to increase their attacks with missile fire towards Israel. And they're doing plenty of missile fire. So everybody in Israel is scratching their head. What's going on? Why did this happen? Why did Netanyahu lead everybody to believe that Hezbollah has nothing to fight with? Well, my opinion on this one is that Netanyahu ain't so smart and he ain't no good warrior. He's a derelict. And he put a lot of work into going after Hezbollah, and I think he didn't really know what they had. That's what I think. And he attacked them so much day after day after day for weeks and weeks and weeks. He thought he deactivated them better than he did. I don't think he's doing October 7th or anything. It's possible, but I doubt it. An Iranian drone factory was destroyed by Israel in Isfahan. Now, I don't know how big it is or how many drones are made. I don't know. But it certainly is going to help the war effort for sure. So the idea was when the old man Khomeini, Ayatollah Khamenei Sr., got killed, Junior Ayatollah Khamenei, his kid got killed too. And they, for fear of loss of face or something, they didn't want to talk about it. Okay. So they just concealed it and made believe they were putting the kid in to make the people feel better. But the kid was actually the one doing all the work for the old man, probably for many years. The old man was quite old, well in the 80s, I believe. And that's what happened. So we'll find out more as we go on, of course. Okay, so this is still a little on the speculative side. We're not completely able to confirm this at this point, but it looks real. 700,000 people were displaced in Lebanon. Look, you got to understand. This idiot government there is giving a safe harbor to Hezbollah and letting Hezbollah use the people of Lebanon as a human shield. And at the same time, they're trying to kill Israelis. 16 Israelis were injured last night from a Hezbollah bomb, or missile rather. Nobody got dead or anything. I don't know what happened. It could be shrapnel. I don't know yet. I could find out. It probably was shrapnel because nobody got seriously injured, but I don't know. It was a Hezbollah launch. Okay, so it did get through. And quite frankly, we don't want to see our people getting killed because the Lebanese government is so cowardly and stupid that they let this group of cockroaches grow and expand in their country and use them. So now they're crying. Now, remember I told you they kept saying, oh, we're going to stop Hezbollah. We're going to demilitarize them, de-weaponize them. I told you it's never going to happen. I told you 60% of the Lebanese army is Shiite Muslim, and they'll never do it. Never. And all they're going to do is say they're going to do it and then get continuances and extensions. And that's all they ever did. I told you. And Israel just can't put up with this anymore. They're trying to go to America to negotiate this now. And what they're trying to tell America is basically, get Israel to leave us alone. And, Hezbollah is unfortunate, but it's not our doing. You can't do that. If you're the head of a country, you got to stay in control of the country. So what's happened to Lebanon, to put it in a way you might understand it better, is there's two heads of the country. There's the Hezbollah head of the country, and there's the regular civil government. And if anything, you'll see the Lebanese army join Hezbollah quicker than before you see the Lebanese army stop Hezbollah, you'll see them unite with Hezbollah. I'm telling you. When you read about Lebanon Christians, what you're normally reading about is Catholics. Okay. You're normally not reading about evangelical churches that, follow the Schofield Bible and, stuff like that. You're reading about Catholics that call themselves Christians. How you could pray to Yeshua's mother and call yourself a believer is beyond me. What do they say? Hail Mary, full of grace, and and they have prayers to Mary. They call it Hail Mary. So somebody goes into the church and they have a confession with the priest in a confessional booth. And then the priest says, after he confesses their sins, "Oh, I bought a bag of heroin and a bag of cocaine and a fifth of scotch, and I stayed drunk and stoned for 3 days, and I beat my wife and kids up, and I threw the television out the window on somebody's car," or whatever, right? Then he goes into the church and does confession. He calls the priest father when Yeshua said, "Call no man father." Right? He also said, "Call no man rabbi." And there's a bunch of crazy people that say they're believers and go to Messianic congregations and call the congregation leader rabbi. Now, you're going to tell me these are real believers that fear God, and when Yeshua says don't do this, they do it anyway? And you're going to tell me that's okay? No. It's not. It might be okay if you're a Buddhist or a Hindu or a Muslim or an atheist or something, but not, as a believer, you don't do that. So they don't think, the Christians in Lebanon, many of them don't think Israel has a right to be a nation, okay? We're the old school that's over with, we're the Christ killers and God's finished with us. And you know how many people in the churches believe that? The non-Catholic churches, probably more than half, probably 65% of them. Oh yeah. I see them in Israel all the time. They don't care about the people of Israel. They just care about the land. Oh, this is going to be our land. We're going to come down from heaven with Yeshua with a rod of iron and reign over them stinking Jews and keep them in line so they know how to behave. We'll teach them. We know. We're the denominational, divisive, sinful church with different doctrinal statements and division. Oh, yeah, but we know. We'll straighten them out. Oh, my gosh. How many people that go to church know it's a sin to go to a divisional church? How many know? Yeah, they don't know. They don't care. I'll read it to you. I will. I'll read it to you right now. Is that going to stop people that hear it? I hope so, but what's more likely to do is get them to run away from me. In other words, the light comes and they run from the light. You're in a dark bedroom at night, and then somebody puts a nice 150-watt light bulb on, and it's bright. That's bright. What are you doing? Galatians 5 verse 19. Now, the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these. These are the works of the flesh, not stuff you're supposed to do, as I will explain to you 2 verses down. Adultery, fornication. No, no. Okay, adultery is sexual relations where one of the people is married. Okay, fornication is the same thing except nobody's married. Okay, equally bad, really, or maybe not equally bad, but bad, bad. Uncleanness, they don't know what that is. Uh, lasciviousness, that's like porn, strip joints, stuff like that. Petting, kids petting. It's not good. Idolatry, come to the cross, that old rugged cross, and go up in the front of the church and kneel down by these pieces of wood and start crying and confessing your sins. Is that adultery? Well, why don't you just go in the woods and find yourself a tree and confess to the tree? Of course, it's adultery. He was hung on a tree, not a crucifix. It wasn't this type of thing. It was more like this. But try to tell them that. And then it goes on and talks about witchcraft. Do the people that go to the churches do witchcraft? No, they don't. Do the pastors do it? Oh, yeah, you better believe it. Hatred, some have it, some don't. Variance. What's variance? They have different doctrines. Oh, I'm pre-trib, I'm mid-trib, I'm post-trib, I'm amillennial. All wrong, but they divide up. And they have doctrinal statements that differ. They vary. Variance, they vary. That's division. And then they make believe that, oh, we don't know what the truth is, so we just respect everybody's doctrine. So we're friendly with everybody who just says they're a believer. Well, that's incorrect. Okay, variance, emulations, wrath, strife. Okay, so you're not supposed to have wrath and strife. So your boss isn't supposed to be that way towards you. Spouses are not supposed to behave that way. Parents don't behave that way. Neighbors shouldn't behave that way, and so forth. Wrath, strife, seditions. A sedition is a division. Look it up in Webster's dictionary. It means a division. What is a denomination? It's a division with variance. They have different doctrinal statements. And they believe different things, and that's your division. Pray in tongues, don't pray in tongues, spritz baptism, immersion baptism, it's all house church, building church, it's all division, seditions, heresies. They're all heretics. They're all heresies. It's like divisions. Envyings. Oh, I wish I had what she has or he has. Murders. So, your variants, your different doctrinal statements, and your seditions, your divisions, your denominations. And the Messianic congregations do this too. They just call it a Messianic umbrella organization. It's a denomination with doctrinal statements. So these things, the Lord rates right up there with murders, and people continue to do it. They wouldn't think of doing adultery or fornication or drunkenness or murders, but they're not going to leave their denomination, and they're not going to give up on their doctrinal statements. It's just, they may as well be murderers and adulterers, according to these scriptures. I'll keep going. And then it goes on and says murders and then drunkenness. Well, they don't get drunk. A lot of them haven't had a drop of alcohol in decades, but they'll do denominations and doctrinal statements that vary. Revelings, that's like a rave party or drunken parties and orgies and that kind of thing. And such like of the which I tell you before, as I have told you in times past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. So if you do these things, you're not going to heaven. according to the Bible. Now, this is according to the same Bible that you're saying you got your salvation from and through and so forth. And now it's telling you you can't do these things, so you're not going to make it into heaven. And you're ignoring it. And you're going to reject me and shun me and not send offerings to me because I teach you this. In other words, you're dumb enough to want your ears tickled. And you could go tickle, tickle, tickle right to the lake of fire. You know? So if you're going to ignore this, go down to the Red Cross and get swimming lessons. Get ready for the lake of fire. They teach you how to swim at the Red Cross, by the way. Yeah, if you don't know how to swim, they'll teach you. You could be swimming in the lake of fire. By the way, you don't go to the lake of fire for a millennium. You don't go to the lake of fire for 1,000,000 years. You don't go for 100 million years. No. You don't go for 1 billion. No. What about 1 trillion? No, you don't go for 1 trillion. You go for an infinite period of time that can't be measured. You're there for so long, you never get out. It's just a perpetual thing that never, ever, ever ends. I know a lot of you can't picture that, but it never ends. It's just ongoing. It's olam. It's like now and forever into the future. It doesn't stop. That's it. When you're in there, you don't die. You've already died. It's selected unto man to die only once. You don't die. You don't escape it that way. You're just there forever and ever. Why? These people hate God. They don't want God. And many of them reject God and hate God and war against God by making war on his people and deceiving them, setting traps and snares with them with phony churches and stuff like this. It never ends. You got to imagine that. It never ends. It's like what's God's IQ? You can't measure God's IQ because it's infinite. It's not measurable. There's no measurement that's capable of measuring God's IQ because it's infinite. IQ, he doesn't. I mean, I'm just using that so you get his intelligence. It's just infinite. People don't understand this stuff. Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. And straight and narrow is the true path, and few be to find it. And it goes on. Let the wicked be wicked. They keep doing wickedness, and let the righteous be righteous. Okay. So I'm giving you some very, very serious truths here. That's extremely serious. Okay. And, if you ignore it, go ahead. It's going to come up at the judgment probably. Hey, don't you remember you were listening to my guy Moshe and he was telling you this stuff, reading it out of the Bible, and you just rejected it? What some of them say is they say this. They say, well, we're not perfect. Why should the church be perfect? Well, what did Yeshua say? He's coming back for a church without spot, wrinkle, and blemish. You see how Satan deceives you? This is Satan doing this. Where in the Bible does it tell you, go out and take money from the people and buy a big building that nobody lives in and nobody benefits from except the pastor's financial statement? Where in the scriptures do you see that? Please help me. I can't find it. It's not there. That's why. You can go into Acts 2. They were selling their real estate to meet the needs of the people, the brothers and sisters in the Lord, in their kehilah, in their congregation. They weren't going out and buying real estate for the building, for the church, and they go in there Sunday at 10:57 and they leave at 1:02 in the afternoon. Okay. And the rest of the time the thing sits empty, or the pastor goes in there and I don't know, has an office there or something like that. Right? What's the air conditioning bill? You know, I mean, some of these places is seating 1,500 people. They got ceilings that are 30, 40 feet high or something. What the heck is the electric bill? I mean, if they're running the early service, which they usually run an early service, right? And that usually goes off, what, at 8 o'clock, 8 to 10. Then the pastor has a break for coffee and he goes and kicks it in again at 11 to 1, right? And then he takes a break and he'll do it again at 6 to 8 usually, or maybe 5 to 7 or whatever, right? So that's his work day, you know. But it's what time do you have to turn the air conditioning on in the summer to heat a building that holds 1,500 people that's got a 30-foot ceiling? If the first service is at 8 o'clock, you probably turn it on at about 7 because it's going to be cool from the night. Okay, maybe 6, 7, you turn it on. And then you leave it on till probably, 9 o'clock at night. What kind of electric bill do you get for that? Think about it. What about the, I mean, it's just unbelievable what they do, you know? They're not there to help the people or bless the people. The only people that are ever going to get any real help out of them is another Satan bot that is a false believer. They're the only ones that are going to help. There's this place it used to work in Israel. I don't think it's there anymore. Maybe it is. It used to raise money all year long, mostly from Europe, to buy a Messianic Jew in Israel a house. Okay. And I started, and all they did was buy um, the false believers, the Satan bought believers, a house. It was a con job. Now the people that were giving money didn't know that. These Satan bots, they don't know what they're doing. They're just playing. You can't convince them of anything. Let the wicked be wicked and the righteous righteous. They're not going to get convinced. Okay. You could talk to them till they're blue in the face. They're normally just going to continue their evil, wicked ways till they get cut off, which is going to be very, very soon. And they don't believe it. Just like the days of Noah. They didn't believe there was a flood coming. They thought this guy was some colossal jerk building a boat where they didn't know from rain. They never had rain. They had dew at night. They would go to bed and the dew would come and it would put water on the plants. Probably when the sun came up, the water would drip off and get into the soil. It wouldn't be a lot of water, but it would be every day they'd get water that way, which probably added up. So, it was crazy. All right. So that's what's this with Lebanon. We're not about to take this lightly. Why did we displace people? We're basically emptying, for now, the south of Lebanon from the Litani River down to the border of Israel, where we're going to have nobody living there. That's the way it's going now. Nobody's going to be living in that 17 to 18 mile area because it's infested with Hezbollah. So we're just going to destroy the place. And they're, going to scream they want money, and that why do they want Trump to come in? They want Trump to come in and tell Israel to stop attacking them. But it makes no sense. Why? Because then Israel just sits there while Hezbollah kills us. How can Netanyahu listen to that? If Netanyahu agrees to it, and he's a slimy serpent, if he agrees to it, then they'll do a vote of no confidence the same week and get rid of him. What do you think? We're going to walk around getting blown up? Or we should move 25, 35 miles away from Lebanon? And it wouldn't matter. They can reach Tel Aviv and Jerusalem from there. A UK warship is going to set sail for Cyprus, the UK base in Cyprus, in the next couple of days. Probably this week, maybe the weekend coming up. Turkey is worried about Cyprus, so they put 6 F-16s in North Cyprus, which is theirs, apparently. Cyprus, as I told you, is not in NATO. Why is Cyprus so in the spotlight? Okay. Most of you, know negativity. I'm not trying to, crash on you or put you down. I'm just going to try to explain to you why Cyprus is coming into the spotlight, okay? It has strategic importance in the Middle East. It has British military bases on Cyprus, and Iran is not very comfortable with Great Britain. Russia hates them, The RAF, the Royal Air Force of the UK, they have 2 bases in what the heck is this? Tiri. I can't pronounce this stuff. Arabic stuff. And a Decaloya. I can't pronounce this Arabic junk. Sovereign base. These are the major British bases in Cyprus. These bases belong to the United Kingdom, not Cyprus. So Cyprus has the land, and that land is UK territory, you could say. Okay. Aircraft from there can reach Israel, Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza in minutes, and with refueling, they could reach Iran, refueling tankers, okay? So that's why the UK likes it. So if they decide they want to kill Israel, they could stage in Cyprus and then kill Israel. Believe me, it's nothing new for the UK. They are used for surveillance, intelligence, and military operations. Okay. They're extremely close to the existing now conflict zone, which is double. It's Hezbollah in Lebanon and Iran. And you could also add in, not so much this minute, but Yemen and Iraq. Cyprus sits on the eastern Mediterranean, and it's about 275 kilometers from Israel. It's about 60 miles or 100 kilometers from Lebanon, and it's 150 kilometers from Syria. So it's got a lot of good strategic positioning, you understand? So that's what's going on. And Iran is uncomfortable with jets there. So it makes it actually a forward operating location or forward operating base for the Western military. So, of course, the UK is in NATO, not the EU, but definitely in NATO. And if something goes down, they could open up these bases to NATO. I mean, why not, right? It's a Navy staging area. Warships coming from Europe and NATO countries often use these ports like Lima Sol Port and Varnasca Port. Much easier than Arabic to pronounce. Ships can refuel, resupply, and stage operations close to the Middle East. So you see the strategic value coming to pass there. It's good for intelligence monitoring because it's so close. Signals intelligence and radar facilities on the island of Cyprus can monitor activity in Lebanon, Syria, and Israel and the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. So that's a source of a lot of good intel for NATO countries. In addition, it's an evacuation hub. Now, Israel was flying foreign tourists stranded in Israel out, and I believe they were taking them to Cyprus. In the past, that's where they take them. And then in Cyprus, they got to book their real flights to go home. Cyprus got a good amount of flights, and from Cyprus, they might have to go into Europe. And then from Europe, you could go anywhere in the world, So if big war breaks out, which it could, because NATO and the EU could very likely be in this war like next week or this week. Really, it's a high probability. Cyprus is the closest safe EU territory where Western countries evacuate civilians from, Israel, Lebanon, all over the Middle East. When the Iranians launched another missile at the Turkey, an American destroyer took it down. So remember, Turkey could do it the next time. They could scream Article 5. Let the missile fall if it's going in open spaces and play Article 5. It's not the first occurrence, it would be the third occurrence next time. It's thought by American intel, I believe, that China might start giving cash and missile parts to Iran. So they don't want to give them wholly assembled missiles. They'll give them components to help them make missiles, and they'll give them money. So has this begun? No, but it's thought that it will. So we're watching and waiting. Is that going to cause, America to go to war with China? No. It'll increase tensions. Trump may smack sanctions on him, but they're not going to go to a shooting war over that alone, I don't think. Not only did they injure 16 people yesterday, the Hezbollah, one of their missiles damaged a daycare center. That's where children go, daycare. And they said they're ramping up attacks. They're trying to distract, I guess, Israel from Iran. They want Israel paying attention to them. And like I told you, the Lebanese government, not Hezbollah per se, is trying to set up direct negotiations with Israel and asking America to help them get Israel to stop attacking them. Well, they should have attacked Hezbollah like they said repeatedly they were going to do, and they never did. Okay. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard yesterday claimed it struck a U.S. oil tanker in the northern Persian Gulf, and the vessel caught fire. I believe this was verified. I believe this did happen. Trump was at some point telling the guys that own the ships and operate the ships to get some guts. That's the stupidest thing, and go into the Persian Gulf. Yeah, sure. Why don't you come down here and get on a Navy ship and inspect the Persian Gulf yourself, Trump? It's stupid for them to do that. Why should they do that? Another explosion was seen on another tanker near Kuwait, and a small boat was seen fleeing the scene afterward. That would have been an Iranian go-fast boat. So it caused an attack. It attacked this ship and caused it to catch fire. So there's multiple ships, including oil and chemical tankers, that have been hit around the Straits of Hormuz and the Gulf of Oman, which is outside the Persian Gulf slightly, with at least one crew member killed. In total, many commercial vessels have been damaged since the start of the this chaos. And it includes, but it's not limited to, crude oil tanker ships, okay? I think Trump got the oil prices to go back down to about 90. I'll check in a few minutes. So the Strait of Hormuz, that's the entrance choker point that Iran is controlling to get into the Persian Gulf. Uh, right now, it's very dangerous. Shipping traffic in the region there by Iran and the Persian Gulf has dropped sharply. Something's on my iPad. That's the problem. That's what I was hearing. Okay. Got rid of that. All right. Um, there's many tanker ships that are waiting outside the area to wait for things to clear up and go in the area. There's issues with insurance, and the crews don't want to go in there. They don't want to risk their life. I mean, why would they? I mean, and the crew is the captain. Earlier today, gold was at 51.67. So it's bouncing back up a little. It was in the slightly over 5,000, below 5,100 yesterday. And silver bounced up a little bit too, to 88. So what I was getting was the Brent is at 94 and the WTI at 90. Let's check it now. Let's see what the price of the oil is right now. Um, wait for it to come up. It's giving me the price at 9:54 this morning, which is about right now. uh, the Brent is lower, $90.86, and WTI is 86.53. They are getting it down. Let's check gold and silver. It's about what I told you. It's staying up there. 51.79 on the gold and $88.80 on the silver. So that's going up. So the energy, America taking their reserves and selling their oil to drive the prices down is working for them, but it's short lived. And they're apparently leaving the gold and silver, not making it a high priority. They're doing some price suppression, but not a lot. So that's what's going on with that. So that's really a good thing in a way, but it's certainly not going to last. They could only sell reserves for so long. Um, Apparently, what they're thinking they could do is keep using their reserves to keep prices down and hope that Iran goes defunct and then the prices will sort of stabilize, but they won't because many ports and piers in the Middle East that are used to send the oil out are destroyed, and many refineries are destroyed, and pipelines are broken. So it's not going to be the same for a while. That while could be months. The With them talking about the sleeper agents, they have not uncovered instructions to conduct a specific attack, but the activation message went to several countries. They might already have plans that were given to them physically before they became sleeper agents, and they may know exactly what they need to execute. In other words, they got pre-designated instructions, possibly. Possibly. We don't know. What we're seeing in America with these bombs and stuff is basically, I wouldn't call them sophisticated sleeper agents, and they could be homegrown. People just trying to support Iran following the papal bulls that the Muslim clerics generate. It's not called a papal bull, but it's the equivalent. It's called a fatwa. It's maybe not quite the equivalent, but very similar. Um, so we didn't get, you got to understand, there's no confirmed target package that's been revealed, and they can't attribute any attacks to sleeper agents yet at this time. But in my estimation, it's going to take some days for the sleeper agents to prep. Um, Now, I don't know to what extent the FBI did a good job or a bad job about these sleeper agents in America, and I also don't know about Russian sleeper agents, Chinese sleeper agents, and I don't know much about what. I mean, we know that there's thousands and thousands and millions of them in America, millions, but we don't know exactly what their target packages are, what their approach is going to be, what kind of weapons they have and don't have. We don't know much about this. Okay. So we got to be vigilant. And while I'll keep my eyes and ears open, there is most unlikely nothing in Israel about them. Israel is a high security country, and you're not going to just go around and run sleeper agents in Israel. That's not going to work very well. Um, let me try to get back in the live stream. Uh, it appears sleeper agents were activated, but we don't know specifically what their missions are going to be or if they have actually carried out a mission and when they will or won't. See, they get orders activate. Well, then maybe it's time for them to start traveling to get to their cache of weapons and various sabotage supplies and equipment and communications. And they might have other means of communications that they're using now. I don't know. This is, a general signal they sent out. Probably along the lines of, you're going to be activated now and you're going to get instructions. Now, the instructions could come physically from the handler, okay? Somebody wrote me that they're under persecution in the UK, I believe in England, and they were asking me about coming to Israel, and I'll respond to this person, but it's a tough road to hoe if they can't. See, you can't just go to Israel and say, "Oh, I'm a Jew," and they don't want people coming here unless they're ultra Orthodox Jews, which are under the influence of who, Satan, or they're Satan bots, like businessmen and stuff like that. They're not going to become citizens, but they could they'll help them find ways to stay here. So this person wanted to work, had some skills, and it's extremely difficult, guys, to do that right now. We got to wait for the two witnesses. It's very hard to get in. Netanyahu doesn't want people of God coming to Israel. Neither does his government. Neither do the ultra-Orthodox. They know God's real. They know Yeshua's real. What are we kidding ourselves? They don't want it. They don't want it. They're trying to build Israel. Listen to me. What they're trying to do is not what they're going to do. They're trying to build Israel into a very elaborate satanic country. God's country. They want to convert it over to Satan's country. Okay? That's what they're trying to do. And the Messianics are thwarting them. But you got 84 Messianic congregations in Israel. Now, they're Galatians 5:19 to 21. But just imagine now all the true believers that are in Israel that are Jews that are not paying attention to the Messianic congregations. There's tons like that. Okay, now sadly, there's people that won't attend a Messianic congregation with the services and stuff like that, but they will, if there's a musician there or something, they will go hear him. They haven't figured out yet that people praising Father God Jehovah and his firstborn son Yeshua are not going to be welcome in these congregations. The ones that are making believe they're praising Jehovah and Yeshua by not revealing the names and things like that, they're the ones that can get in there and play the music and sell the music and get offerings and stuff like that. They're not going to let real musicians in there. Okay? Real musicians wouldn't go there. They would be under conviction. It's evil to go there. You can't go there and give credibility to them. I would never go there and teach correct prophecy. It would be teaching that, it would be giving them credibility. I couldn't do that. I would never do it. Even if they invited me, you think I'd go? They would invite you to kill you. You'd be in sin and they'd start cursing you while you're up there on the pulpit. Satan, kill him, Satan, kill him, That's what these people are about. That's what they're about. They're just no good. So I'll answer this chap, but I don't have any great news for him. There are people, if you've got, high-tech experience, you can get work in Israel. The best way to get work in Israel is you could write companies and stuff like that, but they're not going to put a lot of time in you because you know how many people write and are not serious. They're not going to take a lot of time with you. If you come to Israel physically and go to employment agencies and say you want to look for work, and you've got to have some high-tech skill set, okay? They'll probably send you around and get you some interviews, and you say, look, I'm going to move here, but I got to get work first. I can't just come here. And it's the employer that's got to get the working papers for you. So they apply. You can't apply. They apply. And if they apply to get you working papers, they just basically have to write a statement. They can't find people in Israel, enough people in Israel that have this skill set to do the job. So they want to bring foreigners in. And if it's somebody that doesn't have high-tech work, like they're a waitress, a gardener, they change oil in a car, they do house construction or gardening, or they cook in a restaurant. I say, well, why? How does that work? The immigration people are going to say, why you can't find people like Now, if you're running a Japanese restaurant and you want to bring people in here from Japan that can cook the Japanese dishes, you could easily tell the immigration people, who do you know that cooks Japanese here? I don't know anybody. I can't find anybody. They'll say, gee, I guess you're right. Okay, approved, stamp, they don't care. I mean, they'll help you, but you got to make sense of it, right? So what is your skill set? It doesn't have to be in high tech, but that works. What do you got that you can offer them? Now you're not going to be a citizen, you're not going to vote, you're not going to be a resident. They might give you a multiple entry visa. What does that mean? It means you could go out and come in while you're here working, and that'd be pretty common because they might want you doing marketing and visiting their customers in Europe and South America, North America, Asia, whatever, because you got good English. Now, most of the time they want somebody with good English in these companies, but I mean real English, mother tongue. A lot of companies though don't operate that way. Like Chinese people got broken English, and they're talking to some other company in um, Africa that doesn't speak good English either, or something, or the Middle East or whatever, right? And they're talking to each other in broken English, and they could wind up screwing up orders and and stuff like that. So it's a lot more intelligent to have good English. Now, a lot of it isn't going to always be done by travel. It'll be done by Zoom or something, where they could have a meeting on the internet. It's a lot cheaper, faster, and easier than flying around the world. But there's a time when they got to fly around the world. And surprising to a lot of you, there's not that many Israelis that like that. The Israelis that came here from Australia or Great Britain or France or America or Canada, they don't mind flying out and visiting other countries because they know the culture. If you grew up in America, believe me, you could function in the UK and vice versa, and the same with Canada. And in France, not so easy because you don't have the language, but it's not that hard for you either. France is not deficient on people that speak English, and the same with Austria and Belgium and Germany and Italy and stuff like that. So you could go over there and you're going to know the culture. Okay. You think you would have trouble coming from Canada or America and functioning in Italy or France? You're wrong. You wouldn't have a problem. If you were going to go from Canada or America to Peru, you would have trouble. You wouldn't understand what they're going on with over there very easily. You'd kind of get it, but you wouldn't. But you'd be fine. I mean, the civilization level in Europe is very, very close to Canada or America. And Australia, but Australia's got a lot of problems now. So you would be able to do fine. And the companies in Israel know that. So they wouldn't have any problem putting you on a plane and sending you to see their customers in Europe to try to make things work out better and easier and stuff like that. Now, I did this. I worked for a medical products company many years ago. So, and I went around, I traveled a lot. Okay. I traveled so much that I was getting, Delta was upgrading me to first class like all the time. And when I went to rent cars I was using Avis, not Hertz. I was getting Cadillacs. I'd pay for a Buick Skylark and get a Cadillac. Uh, and I had hotel status also, but not that great because my hotels were bouncing around. I didn't get to stay in all the same hotels at one time. So you get a lot of those upgrades. So if you're going to fly a lot, the first few months you're in coach, and then you start. They have different ways. You get points or whatever, and then you start getting to be able to upgrade yourself into business or first class. There's really not a great need to go first class. If you go to business, the seats are plenty big, and the food's different and plenty good. First class is always better, but the difference in the food from first class, it's not that much. First class is you got more room and it's emptier and you got more oxygen. The best, you see a lot of people fly and they get run down because the air in the coach, when the coach is full, stinks. In business, it's much better, and in first class, better yet. There's not many people in first class, and you're covering a lot of square feet, so you get you get better air. That's part of the problem. Then you're not cramped, so you can stick your feet out. And now if you're on a 2-3 hour flight, it's not that big a deal. But if you're on an 8-9 hour flight, it's a big deal. And you got more room to stretch. I think your circulation is better, and you just stay healthier. And the bathrooms are much cleaner and nicer in first class, but business isn't so bad either. And the food is better in first class, but the business isn't that deficient. Coach is the worst. The only place in coach that's worth a hoot is you get the front row where you got the wall in front of you, and there's usually a good room to stretch your feet out. They usually give that to somebody with a small child because the child can sit on the floor between the seat and the wall, and kids like to sit on the floor, so that works better for the kids. Um, Now they just try to sell you, things for extra money and stuff like that. I flew so much. I always wanted to be a salesman that traveled international. This is going back many, many years ago, decades. And when I did it, it wasn't really that much fun. Okay. You spend a lot of time, you're in a strange city by yourself. And what do you do? I mean, depending where you are, I mean, if you know where you are and there's some things you want to do, you could do it. Like I went to San Francisco, live in San Francisco before I went to Israel. So I would, I would know where to go. I would get a hotel where I wanted to be, and I would go to the restaurants that I knew, and I would eat out there, and I'd go, I was okay there. And I went to LA a lot, and I was half okay in LA. I knew my way around okay LA, but only small parts of it. So a lot of it wasn't fun for me. I didn't have a good time in LA. And I went to Florida, and that was enjoyable. And then I went to New York, and that I knew very well. Chicago, I went to. I didn't know nothing about Chicago. I didn't have a good time in Chicago. I believe I went to Colorado. I didn't know my way around Colorado. I didn't have a great time in Colorado. There were some nice customers there, but where else did I go? I went to Mexico City. We had family there, so the family was with me, so that was okay. Uh, where else did I go? Let me think. That was about it. I didn't work Europe. Um, they were using me mostly up in America and Mexico. They didn't want to send me to Europe. They would work Europe. They used to like to go up there, and they knew some of the customers. They went there. I don't know why, but uh, so anyway, I did it, and in the beginning, it's fun, and after a while, it's not a lot of fun. I used to travel so much. I used to buy paper towels in America. I used to get Viva paper towels, which are no good anymore. I mean, they're okay, but they're not like they used to be. They used to be like cloth. And I bought other things, food in America. I'd be bringing, what did I used to bring? Maxwell House instant coffee. I got to like that. Uh, and it was another coffee I liked I'd bring. So I was shopping in America frequently. Clothes, of course. um, I don't know if I ever brought toilet paper back. I don't think so. It's that kind of thing. I know Israelis that every 6 months they take a trip to America and they go there and they buy their clothes. They buy underwear, sneakers, whatever they need, and then they'll bring small amounts of clothes back and other things. Maybe they need to buy electronics, and they'll do that. They'll go there and bring stuff back. They go every 6 months. Um, that goes on, uh, that goes on. So I don't, but that is a job that if you've got a skill set in something, they'll take you. And then they'll throw you on the plane all the time. They're not going to worry about teaching you Hebrew. They don't care about you. They're using you. Sometimes you might find some nice people or something like that, and they'll teach you, but generally they're not going to bother with you. Um, and you'll be traveling all the time. They don't like doing it because normally they don't have good enough English. They're afraid that if they speak with an accent, they're going to be taken advantage of. Because that's what happens to people in Israel. They think it's that way all around the world, and we know it's not, but they don't. And they don't like, so they send you out. The same happens if you know Spanish, and they got clients in South and Central America and Spain. Uh, they'll send you. If you got French, there's places they could send you, like France, Morocco, Algiers, Tunisia, maybe a few other places. Russian, I don't know what they do with Russian. Send people to Russia, I doubt it. um, Chinese, they don't have people here that know Chinese. I mean, they might go to university and pick up a few years of Chinese, but that's hardly, fluency. The same with Japanese. Uh, well, you do find Israelis where the parents came from uh, Italy. You run into that. They speak Italian, but that's only going to work if you go to Italy. Um, you got them coming from France and Morocco and Tunisia and Algiers, and mom and dad spoke French and they taught it to the kids, and the kids have good French and they can work in French. And of course, English. You get them in English from New Zealand, Australia, Canada, America, and the UK predominantly. And it's quite a few. Uh, and so it goes. German, yeah, you can there's people here that know German, not many. It's pretty rare. But where are you going to go work in German? Only in Germany. You know, that's not a real useful, you know, language. You can work as a volunteer for companies and entities that do that. They could bring you in for 2 years easily. And you can have an Israeli experience where they're going to overwork you, abuse you. Not every entity, but a lot of them. They gotta buy your health insurance, your Bituach Leumi, your insurance in general. Like if you get killed, burial insurance and other things. I don't know. So they got to pay that for you, which could be a little bit of money, not a ton. And then they got to give you housing, and they got to give you food, and you got to have a corporation, and you got to be in business. You got to look like you're really in business. You could file a nonprofit organization in Israel, which I wouldn't do, and to do it that way, and then say you're in ministry. They probably wouldn't care, and they'd let you bring people in anyway. But if you were a chef that went to school, like a 2-year chef school, like Culinary Institute in San Francisco or something like that, you would more than likely be able to get a job in Israel, but they'd want you to learn some Hebrew, or how you're going to communicate with the wait staff giving you the food orders. So you'd need some minimalistic Hebrew anyway, and they would hire you. I think. With medical, it's a tough thing because they're not going to take you as a nurse or an X-ray technician or physical therapist. First problem they got is, what country are you licensed in? Now, they might accept America or the UK, and they might not. I don't know. But how are you going to function here unless you have regular Hebrew? And you'd also need technical scientific Hebrew or medical Hebrew. So you'd have to go to an Ulpan, which is about 6 months, not quite, 5.5, I think. And they go about 8 hours a day. And then you'd probably have to take the 4 to 6 week medical course where they don't teach you Hebrew anymore because basic Hebrew. They start teaching you medical Hebrew. Like what the heck is an MRI in Hebrew? What's a sonogram? Names of medicines, names of procedures, and things like that. So you could communicate with the medical people. How do you say lavage in Hebrew? I don't know, but I'm sure there's a word for it. So you'd have to learn that. So what good are you if you're a nurse or you're a nurse practitioner even, and you come here and you can't communicate with the other medical people or the clients, the patients? What you have no value. Now, if you're a doctor or a dentist, yeah, they'll figure something out for you, and they'll figure out a way to get you to learn Hebrew even. Yeah, that would work. But where are you a doctor from? Are they going to take a doctor from North Korea? Of course not. Are they going to take one from Russia? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. So, are you a specialist? Are you a GP? And then how long do you have to work under their supervision before they license you? That could have variants and stuff like that. Generally, they make it very easy for you. Okay? They want you. That's if you're the doctor, you're the dentist. They don't license chiropractors here in Israel, so you're not going to come here and work as a chiropractor. You could. There are people that do it, but it's not much of a profession in Israel. I wish it was. Acupuncturist is that I think they license. There's people that are homeopaths, homeopathy here, not licensed, chiropractic, not licensed, and probably acupuncture is not licensed. That I'm thinking about it. An herbalist or, somebody like that's not licensed, but they're here, you know. So you could get all these things. But how are you going to, make a practice? And then you need to get insurance if you can, and they may not give it to you. And then people may file complaints about you because they don't want to pay for the services just because they want to rip you off. And, it's not something that's real easy to do. You could try, like if you were a chiropractor, to go to a kibbutz and say you want to work there. And I think if you walked around and visited enough kibbutzes, they would find somebody that hire you. And then you would have room and board. They'd probably give you some use of a vehicle, a certain amount of hours a month or something from the motor pool, and you'd have some money. So you'd have a place to live, and then what do you need? You have your chiropractic table, what that the people lay on, and that's what you need, and a chair to talk to people, and that sort of stuff. A model of the spine, and you don't need much, and then you just adjust the people all day, and they'd probably go for that. Somebody would, and it would probably work out. People would get better of things they had wrong with them for many years. So, but how many chiropractors are out there listening to me that want to come here? Like next to none. If you work for a high-tech military industry in some big country, or companies that make military equipment, there's a high probability they'd find work for you here. But again, they're going to get nervous. Who are you? What are you? Are you spying on us? And, that kind of thing can happen too. If you're a mechanic for cars, would you get work here? Well, you'd have to work for yourself, because how does a garage or a service station hire you? They can't go and tell the government, I got to hire this guy because I can't find mechanics. That's nonsense. Mechanics are all over the place. So that's not going to work. So what the heck does work? It's hard. It's hard. It's not easy to find work in Israel. Now, they would rarely ever hire anybody, Israeli or otherwise, that's over 50. Because once you put a year in, it's really hard for them to fire you. It's really hard. Okay? If you're in sales and they fire you because they say you weren't getting sales, you could file a complaint and say the reason you weren't getting sales is the pricing or the products were not competitive and it's not your fault, and you tried to tell them to fix it and they didn't fix it. And then they might have to give you a year's pay or something, or 2 years' pay, So they don't want to hire anybody that's 50 because they're going to be stuck with them until 67 when they hit retirement age, and then they could probably shift them out. pensions in Israel in the private sector go through the government normally, and they're pretty generous. So if you were making a good amount of money here, you might wind up with a pension of $5,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 a month. If you put in 12 years, if you put in, it's going to be hard to get high at 12 years, but if you put in 20 years, it goes up 2.5% a year. So every 2 years, it goes up 5%. So you could start increasing. I mean, there's people that get pensions of $10,000 a month in Israel. Now this is the equivalent of Social Security, you would say, which in America has a cap that never. Well, no, now there's some people in Social Security. I don't know what they do. They could get $4,000 or $5,000 a month, but in Israel it could be double that. But not for everybody. You're going to have a pretty generous income, like a doctor or something like that, or a corporation VP or president. They may get a 10,000. Well, it would be in U.S. dollars, $10,000 a month pension. They might get that. Not that many people in Israel have it, but $6,000 or $7,000 pension, that's not exactly rare. And it depends if they work for 35 years, every year, every extra year over the 12 years goes up 2.5%. So if they went 20 years over that, they would get a very big pension. So they worked 32 years. It would be, they would get they'd be at, at least, 65, 7,500 a month. They would be okay. So that's what the kibbutzes used to do. They would make industries to keep their people working. So the people in the kibbutz would pay, they'd of course pay into the social benefits for the health insurance and the burial if you drop dead and you're poor, or the retirement. And then the kibbutznik would retire, and the first retirement check for the month they give to the kibbutznik, and then the rest of the money goes to the kibbutz, and the kibbutz continues to give the person the regular cash stipend, and they get their house and their electric and their internet and their this and that for free. So they don't have to pay for anything, right? And the kibbutz pays them. So the kibbutzes would thrive on that because people would be working for, 30 years is nothing. They were getting big money and it was going into the kibbutz. Now the kibbutz takes care of them when they get too old. No, there's no such thing as too old. It could happen to somebody that's 34 years old. If they need help with the house, the young people with the kibbutz will go over there and help them with the cleaning of the house. There's a central dining room that the people in the kibbutz eat in, so you don't have to worry about eating. If you are unable to go to the dining room, they would have somebody tell you what's on the menu, and you tell them what they want. They would bring it over to the house for you. Now, what they would also do is file to the welfare people in Israel for providing assistance in cleaning your house and feeding you and this and that. And they would help do laundry if you needed it. It just depends on the level. Now, if you get bad, they would not have you in the regular house. They'd put you in a home they run. And you would have maybe a shared room or your own room or whatever. And they would have nurses. So everybody's in the kibbutz. The nurses are in the kibbutz, not the doctors. The nurses are kibbutzniks. And they run the place. And they're charging the health plan for their services and making money. So it's an industry for them. You get it? And they're taking rather good care of their elderly, and they're staying at the same place they were. They just move out of their residential home into a place where they need to be. Now, for that to happen, they need to be in bad shape. Okay? So they have dementia. They can't be left in their own house because they don't know what they're doing anymore. They could leave the stove on. They could leave the gas on and gas. They could, who knows what they're going to do. Walk out of the house, leave the door open and get lost someplace. Or they no longer walk. So, but they'll try as hard as they can to leave them in their own house as long as possible. But if it gets too much, then they put them in their facility right on the kibbutz. Then they also have their own beauty parlor there. So the women go to the beauty parlor right there on their own kibbutz. Then they buy a dental operatory. They set up a dental's office. They buy the dental equipment. And a lot of times they'll send somebody on the kibbutz to go to dental assistant school, one or two of the gals or something. And then they make a deal with a dentist to come to the kibbutz, 2-3 times a week or once a week, or depending how big they are. Some kibbutzes are 5,000 people, and that's pretty good size. Some are 1,500. They get them to come to the kibbutz, and then the people work. They get their teeth worked on right at the kibbutz, and then the dentist bills the health insurance and gets paid that way, and he doesn't have any overhead. So he comes out here. Then they do it with family practice doctor. So they run a general clinic usually every other day. So if you don't feel good, you go to the clinic right there in the kibbutz, and they'll generate prescriptions, and they've got rudimentary equipment. They might have an x-ray machine there. They might have a sonogram. They're not going to have an MRI or anything sophisticated. They have the ability to draw blood, and then they take the blood to a lab and they get it tested, or they have a lab come pick it up once a day or whatever. They'll have things like a scale to weigh people and that kind of thing. So they're just working on, basic stuff with the people, right? And then they'll have specialists come out, maybe once a week, once every other week, and see people. So like a dermatologist, pediatrician, I don't know, a lot of the other kind of doctors won't be coming there because there's too much special equipment needed, but some will. Maybe internal medicine comes. They might have psychiatry or psychologists come, probably more psychologists. That kind of thing. The real sophisticated, like a heart surgeon, a brain surgeon, neuropathy, orthopedics, you're probably going to have to go to the guy's office because there's a lot of special equipment involved, or ophthalmology and stuff. Maybe ear, nose, and throat could visit, that kind of thing. If you need like periodontal or dental surgery or something like that, the root canal, they probably have to go to the dentist. I don't think they'll do it at the kibbutz, but that's how they do things. So they keep the people on the kibbutz. They don't have to be commuting on buses around Israel and killing hours of their time. They can keep working. That's the mentality for the kibbutz. So they had a nice little thing going on, but they couldn't make money. Maybe the Satan bots torpedoed them. I think that was the case in many kibbutzes. From experience, I believe that's what happened. And a lot of times it's just stupidity. And a lot of people go to the kibbutz and they have no drive. Like, I knew a guy at the place that when I was working for the medical place, it was a kibbutz owned business. I wasn't on the kibbutz. I went to work and I came home. I didn't sleep there or live there or anything. But one of the guys was telling me, I work in the shipping department. I just package the things up, label them, put them in boxes, and we ship it out to the customers. He says, I'm in the air conditioning every day. It's a mindless work. I just got to look at the order, make sure the right goods go in the box and seal it up and all, and put the label on. And I'm comfortable in the air conditioning, and I get the same money as anybody else. Everybody in the kibbutz gets paid the same, the president, the vice president, and the janitor. So I get the same money, and I'm in the air conditioning, and I don't have to exert myself. See, that's a bad mentality. That's why a lot of the kibbutzes went bust. And that's a typical thinking. Okay? That's a typical thinking. Not good. Not good. No. So it's, there's a weird style of things, So a lot of kibbutzes are gone, And a moshav is basically a lot like a kibbutz, except they actually are owners. Kibbutzes, you don't own anything. With a moshav, if they want to fire you, they got to pay you for your ownership shares, so you walk away with a nest egg. I believe kibbutzes could just fire you and get you off the kibbutz, if I got it right. I don't know. So you could file a kibbutz here in Israel, make a kibbutz if you wanted to, but these governments aren't long for this world, so it's pointless. And that's what I'm telling you about. So it's possible, but it's got, difficulties associated with it. So I'll be back in a minute. Quick break. So I guess the point today is that maybe it's Trump's doing, maybe it's Iran's doing, or both of them, but the odds of Europe and NATO getting in this fight with Iran are tremendously high. There's so many countries that sent Navy vessels over to Cyprus. Germany did, Italy did, UK did. I mean, it's huge. Netherlands even sent somebody, a ship. It's, what's going on? Well, you see, these ships have missile defense systems. So the idea is to take down the missiles, but it's coming out of Lebanon, and Lebanon's not Iran. So what Iran is trying to do, I believe, is get Europe into the war. Because Europe is not America and Israel. They're not going to fight very aggressively, as far as I could tell. And right after they get into the war, Iran will start talking to them and try to get them to talk to America and talk some sense into America and settle the war down while they're still in control of Iran. You see the move? So the more people they get involved in the war, the easier time they might have getting out of the war. Because if these European countries become partners with America and Israel in the war, and then they want to stop the war, well, the only way they're going to get out of the war is if America and Israel stop. So it's a dumb idea of a way to get out of the war. I don't think it'll work. They don't understand America and Europe and America don't understand Iran. So I don't think they're going to get anywhere with this, but Iran's trying it, and they're trying to be careful not to really cause any serious damage. Iran was telling us they're not going to send any more missiles with less than a 110 warhead. They're trying to create the scenario that your bomb shelter is not going to work. Now, if you get a direct hit on your house and you have a house bomb shelter and it's a 1-ton bomb, if it depends where in the house the thing hits, but it very likely could collapse your bomb shelter. Maybe not. It depends on your bomb shelter. The concrete on the bomb shelters is usually about this much, I think 6 inches or so. It's a hard concrete. I guess it has rebar in it, I'm not sure, so it probably has things like this in there. What if you put the same thing in with 12 inches of concrete? Well, and you got a direct hit of a 2,000-pound bomb, you might make it. You might not. What you really need to stop heavy bombs, 1 foot, I don't know, I wouldn't want to count on it. You'd need about 4 feet, 4 or 5 foot of concrete with rebar in it. Yeah, that's going to stop big stuff. I've never seen or heard of a bomb shelter like that. Netanyahu probably has one, but the other bomb shelters, the old big ones, we converted into synagogues, but they're still bomb shelters, if need be. They're underground about 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet, with concrete up there over the roof of it. That's hard to get to. 2,000-pound bombs may not do it with that. My wife was on the road yesterday doing her barley thing, and the siren went off, and she needed to go to a public bomb shelter on the road. So she stopped the car and she went in, and it was like the size of a walk-in closet, not a huge walk-in closet, and it was 9 guys in there with her. They were all very nice, but she had they were all squeezed in there. And that's coming from Hezbollah in Lebanon. So we're not really in the mood for Lebanon's attitude. They told us for over a year that they were going to clean up the Hezbollah mess, and they never did it. And I told you they would never do it. And now they don't like it. Well, they had a year to clean it up. It's on them. It's on them. They run the country. They didn't do anything about it. They didn't want to. They figured they'd just dance around and not have to do it. And that's what they did. And then we're getting attacked now. So what we intend to do is plow down everything from the Litani River down to Israel. And that's not all. We're going to have to keep working north of the Litani River too. How far and how high? Well, probably 50, 75 miles up from our border. But if they have medium-range missiles, which I believe they do, they can go 180 miles and stuff like that. So what are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is Lebanon, open up your doors, let the cedars of Lebanon burn. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be a lot of bombs dropped. And the Hezbollah deal was waiting to distract Israel from Iran, but we're ready for it. The only thing that Hezbollah could do is launch missiles. They don't have any other ability to hurt us unless they try to swarm the border like October 7th. And they would, you can't do that. There's tanks and soldiers that just mow them down, and it's ridiculous. We get a buffer zone by demolishing the Litani River to Israel, but not much of a buffer zone because the missiles can gobble up that 17 or 18 mile gap and continue well into Israel. It's not going to be helpful. That kind of thinking is 30 years ago, 25-mile buffer zones. Yeah, 1990. That made sense. Okay. When they were using Katyusha rockets, that the most they could get was 18 miles. That made sense, but that's not the case anymore. So a 17 or a 25-mile buffer zone doesn't cut it. Does a 40-mile buffer zone do it? Well, what it does is it cuts out many of the missiles that these countries have. If you went 40 miles, they would always need like a medium range or a longer range missile. If you went 100 miles, they could still get missiles. You see what I'm saying? So what they're talking about is annihilating the area, not killing the people in the area, killing the area. So the houses get flattened and stuff like that because the Hezbollah moves in and they literally put missiles in their house. And they put other weapons in their houses. And, they get paid by Iran. They're on the payroll. They get paychecks. They make good money. So what are they going to do? What are the 50,000 jerks in Hezbollah or 40,000? What are they going to do if they don't have an Iranian paycheck? Well, they'll have to get an honest job. They don't want that. So that's what we got to do. It's a lousy situation, but you're dealing with a lousy government, and you got the same thing taking place in Yemen. The same game. But that's going to be attacked by multiple countries because they're blocking the shipping with the Red Sea. And if Lebanon keeps launching missiles to other countries like Cyprus, they're going to have to deal with many countries attacking it also. We're not stopping from Iran. Netanyahu's saying we got a good month to go yet. From today, a month forward to the war in Iran. I don't really think they know how much time it'll take yet. But they got a lot of targets they got to keep hitting. And what I think they really, really want to see is the military just disband. And there is no military, then they can take over. Set up a new government with the Shah's son. Maybe hold elections down the road or something. I don't know. What are they going to do? Make the Shah's son the new supreme leader? I don't know what they're going to do. His father was a dictator. Make him a dictator, that's fine. I don't know what they're going to do. But whatever happens is going to be America friendly or it's not going to happen. And we just can, hope that Russia and China and North Korea just go with it. I don't see any signs that they're not. If NATO and or Europe gets into it, you're likely going to get repercussions in other countries out of the Middle East. Not always the case, but it's pretty probable. But I don't know. We don't know yet. Maybe not. Maybe they'll compel Israel to stop attacking Hezbollah, but Hezbollah won't stop attacking us. Hezbollah won't stop attacking us as long as we are attacking the Iranians. And there's no sign that we're going to stop attacking them. They're the ones that made Hezbollah. They're the source of all the trouble in the Middle East. So we're not going to stop. I hope not. We got them on the downswing, and all we got to do is just keep it up. Every day, I imagine they're getting missile launches blown up. I don't know how many. Maybe they get 2, 3, 4, 5 a day. I don't know. But it all keeps adding up, and the numbers go down, down, down. And then what does Iran do when they lose their missile launches? Well, they're finished. It says in the Jeremiah 49 prophecy about Elam, which is Iran and likely parts of Iraq and maybe even parts of Syria. And these are very interesting times, and it wears us down here in Israel, I got to keep putting all these reports up about the war, which is needed. I need to do it. It's necessary, and I do that. And it's stressful here. Like, I really don't know if our airport's open or not open. I'm not sure. I don't know what's going on yet. I think the FedEx, DHL, UPS are operating. I'm quite sure the post office is operating. So It's probably going to be, cargo flights are probably going to be happening. Passenger flights, not so much yet. And that is, Iran wants to keep that up as long as they possibly can keep it up. I don't know. I think Trump has to make his mind up to deal with the Iranian go fast boats, which are 1,500 to 3,000 of them. And he has to just plan on going around and wiping them out. Okay, so I guess that's what I got for right now. I will do updates with live streams if stuff happens that is interesting. If not, I'll just be doing the Telegram updates. If you want to get on to Telegram, send me an email. My email is in the description box. It's Israel Giving with the number 7 at Gmail. Israel Giving, one word with a 7 at the end, at gmail.com. And tell me you want Telegram. Just put Telegram in the subject header, and I'll send you the invite link. You do need to download the app, I think, to access it correctly. You need the app, and it's called Telegram Messenger. You can get that easily. It's free. Telegram's free. The app's free. It's all free. There's no charge. I don't have any special releases of information for those that pay money or anything. I don't have anything like that. Telegram's just straight up free, And I post the YouTube videos on Telegram right after I do them usually, so you can watch them through the Telegram site, which just really transfers you to YouTube. You get a full spread of the news from Telegram. You get a lot of information. Okay. Stuff that you don't normally see in mainstream media. Oh, all right. I'll say a prayer for us and we'll go from there. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers in their households, that we would all have your strength, stamina, and endurance from you, and we would have your healing and recuperative power in us, that we wouldn't be sick or hurt, and your power would continually be healing our bodies wherever they need healing. And I pray that we would be safe and secure, happy, healthy, and whole, and us as well as our animals and pets. And I pray we would have good sleep, good sweet sleep, and wake up at a good hour. And I pray that we would know more about the Bible and learn more about the Bible and prophecy and other things. What else? And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I pray to make better videos and live streams and better Telegram posts. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, you can agree with this, of course. It'd be a good idea if you're a believer, agree with it. And I'll do some spiritual warfare for us. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I loose off all the true believers and me and my wife and everything we own, possess, control, and set a hands to any and all witchcraft or sorcery directed or targeting us in these things is all null and void for all time forever, lifted off us and shall never return. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that as well. And let's give Hezbollah a dose here. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I loose off every member of Hezbollah and every member of the Lebanese government and army. Any and all unclean spirits, you must come out of these people immediately and never return unto them again, as well as everyone who lives in the same house as these people. The unclean spirits must immediately depart from and never return unto again. And in addition, no unclean spirit shall go in any member of Hezbollah or member or employee or elected official of the Lebanese government or the military. Shall not be able to go into any of these people or appear to any of these people or guide them, lead them, direct them, help them, assist them, lie to them, or deceive them for the next 10 years continuously, beginning now. And no unclean spirit shall be able to go into any building or vehicle or boat or plane owned, operated, controlled, leased, or rented by the Lebanese government, the military, or Hezbollah for the next 10 years continuously. And whenever anybody goes into any of these things or facilities or places, you have to depart from these people before they go in immediately. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And you guys can agree with that also. And may as well give it to Iran because we got new government over there, so let's lay it on them again. My Heavenly Father, Yehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I loose from every member of the Iranian government and military and intelligence services, anybody that owns, operates, controls, works for, is employed by, or paid by the Iranian military, including sleeper agents, any and all of them. You unclean spirits have to immediately depart from all these people, never return unto them again, as well as departing from every person that lives in the same house as them, never to return unto them again. And no unclean spirit shall go into these people or appear to them or guide them, lead them, direct them, help them, assist them, or lie to them for the next 10 years continuously, beginning right now. And no unclean spirit can be inside any building, vehicle, boat, plane, piece of land owned, operated, controlled by any part of the Iranian government. No unclean spirit can be in or on any of these places, and if, for the next 10 years, continuously beginning now, and if any person attempts to go in or on any of these places, the unclean spirits have to come out for them beforehand and never return unto them again. And these commands are made beginning now for the next 10 years continuously. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with those. Okay? If you're a believer. And that ought to be helpful. And B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I loose you unclean spirits out of any member of the government of Yemen and the Houthis that are in Yemen or anywhere else in the world. Your unclean spirits have to immediately depart from any person who owns, operates, controls, works for, or gets paid by the government of Yemen, and the same applies to the Houthis. You have to depart from all these people, never to return unto them again, as well as everyone who lives in the same house as them. You have to come out of them immediately, never return unto them again, and for the next 10 years, no unclean spirit can go into any of these people. That's an employee or owns, operates, controls, or works for the Yemen government and or the Houthis. And no unclean spirit can appear in any of these people or guide them, lead them, direct them, help them, assist them, or deceive them in any matter. And no unclean spirit can go into any building, vehicle, boat, plane owned, operated, or controlled by the government of Yemen and the Houthis for the next 10 years continuously, beginning now. And if any person enters into any of these facilities or places, the unclean spirits must depart from these people before they go in or onto these things. And these commands also are set in place for 10 years continuously, beginning now. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. There we go. Okay, so you got it all set up. And you can agree with this. And we'll see how this changes the tide, and we'll adjust our spiritual warfare as needed as it goes on. Okay, so I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach and his Father, our Father, Father God Jehovah. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I went a little bit longer than I wanted to today, but that's okay. I'm out.